Hello Peaches! So today's video is going to be another video related to Mental Health Awareness Month. In case you haven't seen the first one I did, just go to my channel. I uploaded right before I upload this one. So it's my last video. You can go watch that if you want. Also, my hair is kind of poofy today and it's never poofy, so I don't know what's going on. I have very thin, flat, greasy, stupid hair. So I don't know why it's all of a sudden a little bit poofy. Kind of weird. Also, with the background situation, I still have not figured something out. This has gotten a little better because I did some things with the lighting and moving things a little bit. It's still not perfect, but we'll figure it out. Maybe this is alright, I don't know. Anyway, today's video I'm going to talk about my mental health story and timeline. I'm going to talk about what happened in my life that made me realize I was sick and stuff like that. And when it happened, how it happened, and everything leading up to it. So basically we're going all the way back to when I was about 11 years old. And I'm also going to give you my family mental health issues, not in detail because some of the people in my family want to be private, I guess. But you know, I'm going to give you kind of an overview of the mental health history we have in my family. So first off, I have paranoid schizophrenia, which is regular schizophrenia, except that you are also paranoid. So yeah, pretty much self-explanatory, I guess. My symptoms, my worst things is definitely that I'm paranoid. I think that people can hear my thoughts sometimes. I feel like someone is stalking me. I feel like someone is always watching me. Even when I'm totally alone, I have a feeling that people can see me. Kind of like, you know, that movie that Jim Carrey was in, The True Man Show, The Real Man Show, I don't know. I have watched that movie, which was like the biggest mistake ever, because then I became so paranoid that everyone in the world could see me no matter what. And I don't really have that anymore that much, but I do have it a little bit sometimes. That movie ruined my mind. It made me super paranoid, so I will never watch that movie again. So yeah, that's kind of like, that's the main things. Then I also do hallucinate. I see things and hear things that aren't here. I hear voices. And no, it is not ghosts. I do believe in ghosts, I do. But this is not ghosts. This is my brain not working. And no, it is not Satan or Jesus trying to tell me things. You see this all the time on videos about schizophrenia, is Christian insane people thinking like, oh, it's because Satan is talking to you, so just find Jesus and then you'll be healthy. Like, no. I was a Christian when I started getting sick, actually. And when I started hearing voices and seeing things that weren't there, I was a Christian. I was a strong believer. So yeah, that's bullshit. But yeah, I just really want to clarify that. Any of those kind of comments will be deleted because it's super hurtful to hear that when you're sick and then someone saying, ugh, you're not sick, it's just Jesus. It's just super disrespectful. I never understood people who think it's okay to say those kind of things. Like, I'm actually sick and I have a real sickness. If someone has a broken leg, you don't go up to them and say, oh, you don't have a broken leg, it's just, Satan is just poking your leg a little bit so it hurts a little bit. But if you believe in Jesus, your leg will magically heal and never break again. It's bullshit, it doesn't work like that. Anyway, rant over. Let's get into the video, I'm sorry. But yeah, those are my main symptoms: hallucination and paranoia. And then I have like smaller ones, like I don't have a lot of energy, I have hard time concentrating on things that I'm not interested in. Stuff like that. So my family mental issue history. My great-grandfather, he had schizophrenia. He actually, from what I heard, and if I remember correctly, he committed suicide because of his mental health. And you know, back then you couldn't get as much help as you can now and everything like that. So I'm not sure how bad his disease was, but it was apparently pretty damn bad if he committed suicide because of it. Then my biological grandfather, who I haven't seen a lot, he's an alcoholic. And he's just, you know, he used to work as a painter, and back then, if you worked as a painter and you smelled all the paint, breathed in the fumes, you would get a little bit weird in the head. And he's just, I'm not sure if it's because he was a painter or whatever, but he is, like, his mental health is not good. And as I said, he's an alcoholic, and that's that doesn't have anything to do with the painting. That's just how his brain is, I guess. I don't really know much about him because as I said, I've only seen him a few times. I have another person who I call grandfather, even though he's not. He's just my grandmother's husband. But my biological grandfather, the one I share blood with, is a crazy alcoholic. That's great. Then my grandmother, she had, as far as I heard, suffered from some depression. And this is not the kind of depression that comes if something has happened. This is just the kind of depression that, you know, is in her body. It's just there, which is sadly the part that can be brought on to children and stuff like that. And then there's my father. He never got a diagnosis, but he definitely had some mental problems. Like everyone who knew him says that pretty much. And you can't really put a diagnosis on a person if you're not a psychologist, and definitely not when that person is dead like my father is. But from what I know, from my experience, from what I see and other people I know, I think that my dad might have had a schizophrenia. I'm not sure what it's called in English. I'll write the name here. It's like a milder version of schizophrenia. I say it milder because it's still a sickness that sucks. But it's basically schizophrenia, but without the hallucinations, without the paranoid thoughts and stuff like that. I think he might have had something like that. That's my mental health history, family history, and everything is on my father's side. I just want to clarify that. I don't really have anything from my mother's side. Like my mother has some, she had some depression and stuff like that, but that's not like genetically, it's because of things that happened that you'll hear in this video. So all the, you know, things that is blood related and in the genetics are all from my father's side, so that's great. My father's side of the family is just like, I don't know what happened. There's just a lot of shit going on with our brains, I guess. Now let's get into the storyline. It started when I was 11 until I was 15 years old. Around that age, I was abused by my mother's then husband. She obviously divorced him immediately after finding out. And I have made a complete video explaining that whole situation, explaining how he molested me and abused me and all that kind of stuff. And I'll leave it in the description down below so you can check that out, because I'm not going to talk about it here, it's a long story. But yeah, I was abused, molested, whatever you want to call it, for 4 to 5 years, 3 to 5 years-ish, around that time. And if you want to hear the full story, go in the description down below. And obviously I told my mom when I was 15, finally, and obviously she wanted me to get some help. Because it's a pretty serious thing I've been through. But up until I was about 16 years old, I refused to get any help. And that's, you know, it's a very normal reaction. A lot of people who's been going through this, well, a lot of people do seek help, and that's amazing. But a lot of people are in kind of like a state of shock, I would almost say. And I was that for like a year, and that's not even weird. It's actually not that long, I guess, compared to other people. But for about a year, I refused to get any help because I was in like shock. I didn't think anything was wrong with me. I thought like the worst was over, you know what I mean? When you've been going through that for many years, and you finally tell it, and she throws that person out of their life and the house and everything, you think like, oh, that was it, the worst is over, he's gone, he can't hurt us, that's it. But that's it. It's sadly, it's not the end. It's the end of the worst, definitely. But it's just a whole new beginning to a lot of other problems. As I said, my mom got depression and a lot of other shitty things because of this, because obviously any mother would if she heard her child had been put through this. And yeah, my journey just began there as well with my mental health. But at first I didn't want to get help because, as I said, I thought it was over. I didn't think any more of it. I thought, now I can go out and have a normal life, and I couldn't, not at that time. So when I was 16, I think I was like almost 17, around that age. I have a very bad memory, by the way, I just want to say that. So all the things I've written down here are like ish, you know, it's not exact. But around that age, around that time, you know, I just have extremely bad memory. But when I was almost 17, maybe I was just turned 17, I talked to my father's ex-wife, who I still have an amazing relationship with. My father and her got divorced, and then my father died, but she's still, like, I still see her as my stepmother, even though she's technically not. But she's a lovely person. So I talked to her about all the things, I told her what happened, and she was the one who convinced me to finally get help. So because I was under 18 at that time, I was sent to a center for sexually abused children, or center, that's what it was called. It's like a psychiatrist, psychology kind of thing. Like, you go in and you talk to a person about what happened, they help you a little bit. I think, you know, there's different kinds of therapy, I don't remember the names for them, but I think that this kind of therapy, it was the kind of therapy where I went in, I talked about what happened, and that was it, you know? That's not the kind of therapy for me. I need the kind of therapy where you go in and you say, I have these problems, and then a person say, maybe you can do this and this to solve the problems. And then you do it and the problem are solved, you know, more or less. It takes some work, obviously, but I'm not into that kind of therapy as the first one was, where I just go in and say, and then this happened, and then this happened, and then the psychologists say, that sucks, goodbye, see you next week. You know, that's not my kind of therapy. I need something where we can work, where we can get moving on and get problem solved, you know. So I wasn't there for a long time because it just wasn't for me, wasn't the kind of therapy for me. But yeah, it was fine. There was some nice people down there, it was a good place, and you know, I'm not sure, I have no idea how long I went there, but it was a while, but it wasn't like super long. I don't know, it didn't really do much for me, but it was fine anyway. Then I was about 18 years old, I for some reason got convinced that I had bipolar disorder. And when I say that I got convinced, it's my schizophrenia that convinced me. That's the thing about schizophrenia, you often get delusional, well, not often, a lot of people with schizophrenia get these delusional thoughts sometimes. I've only had that one thought, that one delusional thing or thought in my head, or experience. For some reason I was just convinced that I had bipolar disorder. And now that I don't have it, I obviously see, oh, it's because of my schizophrenia that for some reason convinced my brain that I had bipolar disorder. So I thought I had that, and then I went to the doctor and talked about it. She didn't really think that I had it. Like, I had done some research online, I think that maybe have triggered something in my schizophrenia to say, you have that, you know? But yeah, she just didn't believe me, it didn't make sense, the things I said. And it's not like, I think when I say it, it sounds like that I was lying to the doctor. I wasn't. Like, I seriously thought I had it. I was like, the doctor, I was like, why don't you believe me? I have bipolar, how can you not see that? So it's not like I was lying or anything, I was just delusional. So yeah, that's for some reason that happened, but the doctor, you know, I didn't have it, obviously. I was kind of like, after going to the doctor, and she was kind of like, didn't really believe me, it didn't make sense, the things I said, it wasn't bipolar and stuff like that. But I dropped it, I just didn't believe it anymore for some reason. My delusions went away right after that, like pretty much right after that. I kind of found out that I was hearing voices. Now this is a very weird feeling because I'm not sure if I've heard them for a long time, but I just was so delusional that I didn't want to acknowledge it, or if they just didn't start appearing until then. That's the thing about schizophrenia, you don't know when it started actually, because you may have been delusional because of your disease. But I started noticing the voices and started hearing voices not long after that incident. So we went to the hospital, my mom took me to the hospital, where I got checked and I got talked to and stuff like that. And then the people promised me, because you know there are different places you can get admitted to, you know, asylum places, and they had this place for young people that they can get admitted to, young people with mental health problems. It was an open, so it wasn't like closed, you were forced to be there. So it was very nice, and you had to stay there for 5 days, and then you could come home in the weekends, stuff like that. I was kind of promised that I could go there like 2 days later, I think. I went to the hospital on like Friday, and then they said, well, the weekends are closed, but on Monday you can go there, that kind of thing. So for the weekend, I think it's as I said, bad memory, but something along these lines. So for that weekend, until there was room for me up there, I was admitted to another hospital, also an open ward, but definitely not the same. It wasn't just like for young people. There weren't any like activities or anything. It was just a place for mentally ill people to just be. I haven't gotten my diagnosis at this point, but the doctors were like, you probably have schizophrenia, so let's just keep you here and look at you for like a month or something, and then we'll figure it out. So yeah, I got admitted to a place for that weekend until they opened the other place I really wanted to be. And the place I was at the weekend was so shitty. It was not good. First of all, it was just uncomfortable being there. There wasn't a lot of doctors going around, and there were obviously mentally ill people in just walking around all the time. And I'm mentally ill as well, but there were some really sick people, really sick, who, you know, were that kind of sick where they're like uncomfortable. And I feel so bad saying that, because I know they're sick. They're not meaning to be uncomfortable towards me, but they just were. There was this one guy, like at this time I was 18, and there was this one guy who was like my mom's age. He didn't seem that sick, honestly. He just seemed like an old creep. Like, he always looked at me, he always followed me, he complimented me in those kind of creepy ways. I don't know, he just made me super uncomfortable. And besides that, the doctor I got, he was very young, which is usually not a problem. Like, young doctors are also good doctors. But he was just, I don't know, he was just like uptight. He was saying these kind of things to me that, oh, are you getting tattoos? Are you getting piercings because of your mental health? Are you doing it because you're sick? Because we see a lot of that. Like, these are part of my personality and the things I like. It's not because of my disease. And he was just like, oh, you dress really weird and colorful. That must be because you're sick. You know, that kind of thing. And not in a positive way, even though I don't see how that could be positive. But he was just like, you have a weird style. You dress really weird. You look weird. That's probably because you're sick. And I was just sitting there like, what? At that time I had started getting a few tattoos. I had some piercings and I had very colorful hair, stuff like that. I did dress weird. It's not a bad thing, but it's just, you know, the way he say it, and saying it that is because of my disease it's not positive. It's very uncomfortable. It's very not okay to say those kind of things to a sick person. Anyway, he sucked. I hated him. I hated the place. And for some reason, when it became Monday, I could not go to that place that I was promised, because I think, if I remember correctly, then the doctor who was at the hospital I was in the weekend, you know, the stupid guy, he said to the other people that I wasn't sick enough to go there, or whatever it might be. I think that's what happened. I'm not really sure, but that's the thing I remember. I don't really remember how, but for some reason I did get there eventually. A couple weeks later, a month later, I'm not exactly sure when, but I did eventually get to the place I wanted to be. It was a great place, some really nice people, and a lot of things to do, and it really helped me. And when I was there, I got the diagnosis paranoid schizophrenia, and I started getting medication. And the first medication I got very sick. Like, I'm not good with pills for some reason, no matter what it is for. My body just really don't like it. I always get very nauseous, throwing up, headaches, tired. I get all like this side effects of medication usually. So the first pills I got, I don't remember what they're called. I think they're called Abilify. They made me sick, a lot sick. I almost didn't eat for 2 weeks because I was so nauseous all the time, or 1 week I think. Anyway, it was not good. Anyway, so I got some medication that actually worked on me, and then after a month of being in that place, I got to go home. And after that, you know, now it gets kind of complicated, because in Denmark we have this thing called OPUS, OPUS, OPUS. And that is that when you get the diagnosis schizophrenia, you can go there for 2 years where you get free medication and you get free therapy for 2 years. It's amazing. So after I got out of the other place, I started Opus. And that was pretty great. I continued medication and therapy. And you know, they have the good kind of therapy, the kind of therapy where you solve problems, and that was perfect for me. But after 6 months, even though you could go there for 2 years for free, after 6 months I just didn't feel like I needed it anymore. I don't know, I felt like I didn't get any more new out of it or anything like that, even though it was pretty great. So a little bit before I stopped the therapy, I stopped the medicine, and that was amazing. I didn't need it anymore. I think medicine is a great thing for some people, but for me it just didn't make sense anymore. It was great in the beginning, but you know, as I started getting better, I just felt like I didn't need it anymore. And then after that, I'd also stopped the therapy after about 6 months. And yeah, I just walked around enjoying life, getting better for about 4 or 5 months, I think. But then 2 weeks before my 20th birthday, my father dies. He suddenly dies, like literally no one knew it was coming. One day to another, he's just gone. So I did not feel good. My mental health was just crashing at that point. It was horrible. Luckily, Opus that I talked about were willing to take me back. Because, you know, I did finish 6 months, but technically I still had a year and 6 months left because you get 2 years for free. So they were kind enough to just start from where we stopped. And that was great. It went very well. I tried some group therapy, like 2 different kinds. It helped me so much. So yeah, then I keep on getting better and better and better. And then when I'm 21 years old, a few months before I turned 22, I think, Opus stopped. I was not longer a part of Opus because I had then been there for 2 years. And actually, I was a little bit sad because it did help me a lot and it was amazing and nice people there. But I also, you know, I could feel I was ready to stop. Like, there's not much they could do for me anymore. So I didn't really mind. It was like the perfect time. 2 years was like the perfect amount of time for me in that therapy. So yeah, when I was 21, a few months, like 1 or 2 months before 22, I stopped getting therapy. And ever since that, I've just been feeling better and better for each day. And I don't get therapy anymore. I do have, you know, the possibility to easily contact the hospital. If I get problems, I can contact my doctor, stuff like that. The closest people around me do know my problems, my mom obviously, and my boyfriend knows. My boyfriend has my mom's number in case that I'm too freaked out to call her, stuff like that. Like, everything is settled and ready just in case if something happens. Yeah, if I get like crazy again, I guess you can call it. But I have been feeling so good lately. And everything just ties in and it's perfect because then after I've been going for a while without getting therapy and starting to feel better, get to know myself, stuff like that, I meet my boyfriend and he's the most perfect person I've ever met and perfect partner I've ever met. And then we move in together and it's like everything is perfect, everything makes me so happy. Definitely living with him now. Just being with him before we moved in was amazing, but now living with him, every morning that I wake up, I'm just so happy because I'm reminded that I'm with him every day. And it has definitely helped my mental health. So yeah, it's great. Life is great. Finally, I can say that. I never thought I would be able to say that out loud, but life is fucking great, actually. Pretty damn great. So yeah, that was my mental health story, timeline, whatever I want to call it. We'll figure it out. I'm not really sure why I made this video. Just like the other one, it was partly just to spread awareness, just to talk openly about it, nothing to be ashamed of. Because it is Mental Health Awareness Month after all. But also I made this video to maybe help you, maybe discover how to start your journey to get help and stuff like that. I don't know. Hopefully it helped you or just inspired you or whatever it might be. Press the like button if you like this video. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel as well, and thank you for watching.